She met him on a rainy Thursday night, the kind of evening where the sky seems heavy with secrets, at a crowded bar in downtown Philadelphia. He was leaning against the wall of the crowded bar, detached yet magnetic, his eyes scanning the room as though he were searching for something or nothing at all. When their eyes met, she felt that unmistakable jolt, a current that was as thrilling as it was unsettling. He wasn't the type she usually went for, but that was exactly the point. There was something dangerous about him, something untamed. And though a quiet voice deep within whispered caution, another voice, louder, hungrier, pulled her toward him. She didn't know it then, but this was the beginning of a story countless women have lived throughout history. A story of longing, sadness, and heartbreak, of hope and ultimate disappointment, of becoming addicted to the wrong man. This phenomenon, as common as it is devastating, has fascinated philosophers and psychologists for centuries. Why do so many women find themselves irresistibly drawn to men who ultimately bring them pain? Why does love so often feel like a battlefield, even when all one wants is peace? The answer begins with the allure of the forbidden. Human beings, Nietzsche observed, are drawn to what lies just beyond their reach. When a man is unavailable, emotionally, practically, or morally, he becomes much more desirable. He represents the unknown, the untouchable, the dangerous. She knew he was complicated. He did not call when he said he would, and when he did, his words carried a teasing warmth that made her forget the nights when she had waited by the phone. He was unpredictable, like a storm that could either drench her in passion or leave her stranded in the chilly cold. This unpredictability was not just thrilling, it was intoxicating. Neuroscientists have found that uncertainty activates the brain's reward center even more intensely than certainty. In other words, not knowing when he would show affection made his affection feel like a prize. But here's the trap. What feels like passion is often simply anxiety dressed in beautiful clothes. The wrong man has a way of making a woman mistake chaos for chemistry, pain for depth, passion for love. Some of this pull, philosophers and evolutionary psychologists argue, is buried deep in human history. For millennia, survival depended on attaching oneself to a partner who appeared strong, dominant, and capable of navigating danger. The wrong man often exudes these traits, or at least the illusion of them. He is confident, self-assured, and not afraid to break the rules. To the unconscious mind, this confidence signals protection, power, along with the promise of passing strong genes to future offspring. Of course, in the modern world, these instincts are often maladaptive. A man who radiates untamed strength might also be self-destructive, manipulative, or incapable of healthy attachment. Yet biology doesn't differentiate between real safety and and so she finds herself pulled toward a man who represents a kind of ancient security, even as he dismantles her emotional one. Perhaps the most powerful reason women become addicted to the wrong man is not instinct, but hope. There is something profoundly compelling about the idea that love can save, redeem, or transform another human being. She tells herself, if I just love him enough, he'll change. She sees his flaws, his wounds, his walls, and believes her love can break through them. This belief gives her a sense of purpose. She becomes the healer, the savior, the one who sees the goodness others overlook. But hope can be deceptive. Often, she is not in love with who he is, but with who he could be. She loves the man he might become, not the man he has shown himself to be. Sartre might call this an illusion of control. By believing she can change him, she avoids the truth that people are responsible for their own growth. Yet relinquishing this illusion is terrifying because it means accepting that her love alone may not be enough to get through. At this point, the relationship often takes on the quality of an addiction. The pattern is painfully familiar. Moments of tenderness followed by withdrawal. Connection followed by distance. Each cycle of closeness and rejection deepens her attachment, just as a gambler becomes hooked on the hope of the next win. The brain learns to crave the intermittent rewards. When he finally calls after days of silence, the dopamine rush feels euphoric. It erases the pain, at least for a moment. But the withdrawal always returns. This cycle, known as trauma bonding, is particularly insidious because it masquerades as love. She doesn't realize that her devotion is partly fueled by fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of being unworthy, fear of losing the one thing she believes can complete her. Freud called this repetition compulsion, the drive to unconsciously recreate familiar pain. If she grew up with a parent who was emotionally inconsistent, this dynamic may feel hauntingly familiar. She may be trying, on some deep level, to finally earn the love she couldn't win as a child.
Culture, too, plays a powerful role in sustaining these attachments. From childhood, women are fed stories of love as sacrifice. Fairy tales and romantic films glorify the idea of the tortured, distant man whose heart can only be unlocked by the right woman's devotion.
These narratives teach that suffering is proof of love, that waiting and enduring will eventually lead to a happy ending. The more she invests, the harder it becomes to walk away, because doing so would feel like admitting defeat, not just in love, but in life. This romantic fatalism can be devastating. She may believe, consciously or not, that this man is her destiny, that the universe brought them together for a reason, and that leaving him would be a betrayal of fate itself. But fate is often an illusion, and clinging to it keeps her chained to someone who cannot or will not meet her needs. There is also a more subtle dynamic at play, the ego's attachment to suffering. In Buddhism, it is said that humans cling not just to pleasure, but also to pain, because even pain provides a sense of identity. A woman addicted to the wrong man may unconsciously define herself through her endurance. She becomes the loyal one, the martyr, the one who never gives up on love. This identity, though painful, can feel safer than the alternative. Walking away would mean facing the emptiness that remains when the drama disappears. It would mean confronting the frightening question, who am I without this struggle? Nietzsche's concept of amor fati, love of one's fate, offers a sobering lens here. Many women resign themselves to suffering because they believe it is simply their lot in life. They confuse resignation with acceptance, endurance with strength. Perhaps the most paradoxical reason women get addicted to the wrong man is that, on some level, he feels safe precisely because he is unavailable. Real intimacy requires vulnerability. It requires allowing oneself to be fully seen, flaws and all. This can be terrifying. By choosing men who cannot or will not truly connect, she avoids the risk of genuine closeness. On the surface, she longs for intimacy, but at a deeper level, she may fear it. The wrong man becomes a shield against this fear. If he is distant, she never has to reveal her own deepest self. This dynamic is rarely conscious, but once recognized, it can be life-changing. Jean-Paul Sartre spoke often of the tension between freedom and security. The wrong man often embodies freedom. He is untamed, unpredictable, unbound. For a woman raised in a strict or controlling environment, this can be irresistibly attractive. He represents rebellion, independence, the possibility of breaking free from suffocating norms. Yet his freedom often comes at the cost of her security. And this reflects a universal human dilemma. We crave both stability and excitement, belonging and autonomy. The wrong man seems to offer the latter, but at the expense of the former. This is why these relationships can feel larger than life. They awaken existential questions about what it means to love, to be free, to belong. So how does one break free from this cycle? It begins with awareness. Socrates taught that the unexamined life is not worth living. Women trapped in these dynamics must ask hard questions. What am I really seeking in this relationship? What fear keeps me here? Do I love him, or do I fear being alone? From there, the work becomes deeply personal. It may involve therapy, meditation, or simply the courage to sit with loneliness rather than rush to fill it. Buddhist philosophy offers an invaluable tool here, the practice of non-attachment. This does not mean becoming cold or indifferent, but rather learning to love without clinging, to recognize that one's worth is not dependent on another person's affection. Breaking the cycle also requires reframing what love truly is. Culture teaches us to associate love with grand gestures, with passion that burns so brightly it consumes us. But genuine love is not about intensity. It is about consistency. It is about mutual respect, kindness, and the ability to feel safe in each other's presence. Elaine de Botton observes that many people mistake familiarity for love, even when that familiarity is unhealthy. To truly choose a healthy partner, one must redefine familiarity. Stability may feel boring at first because the nervous system has become accustomed to chaos. But over time, stability creates space for the kind of love that nourishes rather than depletes. The woman from the rainy Thursday night eventually walked away. It wasn't easy. She left in tears, her hands trembling, her heart aching as though she had lost a part of herself. But slowly, she realized that what she had lost was not herself, but the illusion that she needed him to be whole. She began to see love differently, not as a desperate attempt to save or be saved, but as a conscious choice made by two people who are already complete. And in that realization lay her freedom.